I have a question for you.
Tell me your name.
Mary.
You're Mary?
Yes.
Okay.
I always feel like when I talk to people who are in high-tech high, they always seem to have this high-tech high moment in their lives from before they even knew high-tech high.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's from their childhood. It's a project they did in school or something they did at home where they can look back on it and think that was a high-tech high moment before I even knew high-tech high.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you have one of those moments from
Oh boy. I got a good one. How long do we have here? Wow. I guess my high-tech high moment, basically was when we started those internships, and we saw, and it was all new to me. I had done writing projects, and I had done drama projects after school, and all that but I was not a project-based teacher. And so I had to learn to be a project-based teacher when I went into and when I saw those kids begin to develop their projects and take ownership of them, and I saw a conversation between one of the shop foremen at Polaroid and a kid who had built this beautiful cabinet, and he asked the kid how much he would charge for the cabinet, and the kid didn't know. And then he said, well, you need to know. And then they started to talk about it. And when I saw that kind of interaction going, I said, wow, that was kind of a moment for me about the stakes that are involved, that can be involved when we're doing project work, the connections that we can make to the world and to pathways to competencies for our future through projects. That's one. There's dozens of others. I can tell you about a project I did in 11th grade.
Yeah.
I'll just very briefly. We had an 11th grade teacher. This was, I go way back. This was during the Cuban Revolution. And we had a history teacher in 11th grade who, he was a cigar smoker. And he would, take a couple of puffs on his cigar when classes were changing. And so you'd come into his room, he's full with cigar smoke. But of course, nobody would tell on him or anything like that, and he loved Fidel. But anyway, he gave us an assignment to do a history paper with using primary sources. So that was the only thing. You're writing a history paper and you must use primary sources. So I didn't know what I was going to do. So I went home and told my father. He said, there had been a flood on the Delaware River a few years before, the biggest flood ever on the Delaware. I lived near the Delaware River in Trenton, New Jersey, and it wiped out the bridges and homes and everything. And so he said there was a great flood up in Lambertville on the river in 1904. He had grown up in Lambertville. He said, I bet you could find some of the old newspapers on that. So he took me up there, and we went down in the basement of the Lambertville Beacon. I found the paper copies. This is 1957 or 8 from 1904 of the Beacon, the accounts of the flood. And so I wrote this paper about it. But the reason it was so important to me was that I knew a lot of my relatives were from Lambertville. I knew that all of my relatives were going to read this paper. So it was very important to me to do the very best I could on it. So that was kind of a high-tech high moment too. It's about the importance of audience. This was an audience that went beyond the teacher, went beyond the school, stuff like that. So, little did I know. Yeah, Georgie.
Georgie, thank you. Paul and I were chatting about the fusion of your talk and sort of the college prep projectile that we want all kids to get to.
Yeah.
And the article that we all addressed as a staff at our recent equity mini dive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Which spoke to this struggle of, are we losing foundational skills that kids unfortunately need to get through the process of getting to college and to be successful in college. And so my eternal struggle is, okay, so we have teacher autonomy, we have amazing projects, we have kids who can talk to each other about their feelings, and we have all those skills. But Classroom X is working really hard on 3-digit addition, and Classroom Y is doing a really heavy writing project, and Classroom Z, And so then they come to the next grade level, and so this teacher has them at all of these ranging levels, and then you throw in families who aren't reading at home because they just don't have the resources, and is that okay? how do we,
Yeah.
is that an equity issue that we aren't all doing the same reading instruction and that we aren't all doing the same math instruction?
Yeah. Here's the equity issue for me. The equity issue, the only equity issue for me is that every child should have a teacher who's passionate about what they're doing and should be engaged in work that connects with the world beyond school in some way. So beyond that, there are issues of balance. And even if everyone did, 3-digit multiplication? Everyone did that to a fairly well. Even while they're doing projects and so forth, if every class did the same stuff, next year, the teacher next year is going to find kids all over the map in terms of their ability to do that work. I mean, we've seen that. I mean, I've been there. I've been there where everyone was doing the same thing in public schools. And the next year, what happens? The teachers in 3rd grade complain that the teachers in the 2nd grade aren't doing their job because the kids have come to what they're in effect they're saying is these kids aren't ready for me. Well, I'm sorry. It's not. It goes the other way. It's the teacher has to be ready for the kids who are in front of them, and no matter what the alignment is. I wasn't going to use that word. No matter what the alignment is, you're going to face a group of kids in front of you who are at all different places, and that's going to be your dilemma and your process. So now, I don't want to come across as an anti-skills guy because I'm not. Because the other part of my response to your question is, for me, the issue is, yes, these foundational skills are important. The pedagogical question is, how do we get there? And what is the proper mix of drill, and practice, and application? And in deciding on that balance, we have to ask the question, what is the work that is engaging and where kids can see the result of their work and feel confident about it? I've seen so many kids who have engaged in round after round after round of exercises in grammar and mathematics who don't get it, and they feel like they don't get it, and they feel like they're not smart. Meanwhile, they've got all these other talents, but they feel like their definition that they have of themselves is that they're not smart. And I think we want to avoid that. I think we need to understand that curriculum is not developmental. Kids are developmental. And they develop in different ways, they develop different skills, and they develop at different paces. So you've got a kid who's not doing his sums right, and another kid's doing 3-digit multiplication in the same room. This kid's not going to get where that kid is now, but it may be that we don't know. We don't know if he's where he should. I think we need to assume he's where he needs to be right now. And we need to have the confidence that given the right opportunities to explore, apply, and practice, that he's going to grow. He's going to get what he needs. So, I don't know. That's where I am on that. Here's what I think, though, about the business of moving from one grade to the next, and the business of what's happening in this room and what's happening in that room. This is why we have morning meetings. Our view, and this gets to a foundational piece of High Tech High, and what we had in mind when we started High Tech High. Because as the language arts coordinator in Cambridge, I did scope and sequence. I did it. I put together the whole thing with a group of teachers. We worked very hard. We brought students in. We did the whole thing. It's not effective. It's not. It didn't work. It went on the shelf. What's important is not so. What I'm saying is that a decision from somewhere that we're all going to do this is not a good way to go about creating a curriculum. The way to create a curriculum that lives is to meet frequently and engage in dialogue about the projects that we're doing, the issues that we're facing, the ways that we have found that seem to be effective with a particular kid or group of kids around math, to share those things and to have the time to do that. And that's why in the beginning we said we want to have time for teachers to meet every day to talk about kids, to talk about curriculum, and to share what they're doing with each other, and to tune and get better and help each other get better. So that's it. That's my take on that. I love the question. Thank you for the question. Because it's